All right, welcome back to another mech review. Today I've got, it's probably my favorite 2C mech in the game. Maybe my favorite? I'm not sure. I think it is. And that is the Warhammer 2C11. Had this thing in my salvage slam list, and I'll tell you what, it's fantastic. The Warhammer 2C is such a great chassis and variant. There's like, we'll get into this when we get into variants, but it has so many good options. Like, it's really diverse. And what's nice is like you can easily find yourself running like more than one of these variants, like two variants, and fulfilling the rule of two in WolfNet format in your list. In fact, in Salvage Slam, I ran the 2C11, and then I also ran the one that fires heat as well, which is the Warhammer 2C8, which is also just like a super, super good mech. But like, there's also the Warhammer 2C3, which is basically identical to the 11. So you can like double up on this thing. The only difference being that the 11 has case and the 3 has energy weapons. So you could get double up. And then there's a bunch of other cool variants. Because I ran two Warhammer 2Cs in my Salvage Slam list, I'm actually going to break this up into a two-parter. So come back next week for part 2, where we're going to cover the 2C8 in depth. That's the heat variant that is just brutal to deal with if you're on the receiving end of it. But today we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about the 2C11. Love this thing. Absolutely love this thing. It is point value 48 points, size 4, so it's a big old boy. TMM1, move 8, standard, nothing special there. He is 770 for his damage profile with an OV of 0. He has 14 total health, with 8 of that being in armor, and then the other 6 being in structure. So he's a little armored forward, not a lot armor forward, especially for how many boxes he has, but 14 is super good. And then he's got one special rule, and that's case, to give him a little bit of crit resilience, which you're probably going to want, because 6 boxes in the structure, you're probably going to take at least 2 crits. And if you get a through armor, that's 3, so you're looking at 2 or 3 crits over the course of a game. Although a lot of times people don't want this thing to be around. So you're going to take those crits in the same turn that it gets killed in all likelihood. But you do have to worry about that a little bit. All right. So let's get into our pros and cons. So pro, he's pretty ubiquitous. Basically, Clan and Intersphere can take him, and a bunch of periphery nations can. Now, he's also cheap. Like, that firepower, 48 points for 7 shots at medium is, and it's not like cheap in the pure sense of it. You're still dropping 48 points, but you're spending not that many points on getting your shots out there. You're spending 6.85 points per shot at medium. That's like super good. So what he does is he creates this solid base of fire, which can help you get your number of shots up, and then you go put your mobility somewhere else, right? You go put your skirmisher somewhere else. And he's not that slow, right? He's 8, which I don't like to run a lot of 8s, and I really try to shy away from move 6s just because it really limits your speed. But like, having 1 or 2 solid speed 8 units in there, especially if they're getting your base of fire up and they have a lot of body to chew through. The problem with a lot of speed 8s is they just don't have the body, and so they die very quickly. But this thing's got 14, and if you build your rest of your list right, then you kind of take the pressure off of him, because it's like, well, do I deal with that thing that's shooting 7 or deal with this thing that's in my face, right? And because he's a solid base of fire, he allows you to take those skirmishers and maybe some of those scouts, right, and push up the board a little faster. So he is just this solid base of fire, and he's also really good at like guarding and protecting your objectives in your backfield, because who wants to run up against something that's edition 7 at short or medium in the backfield? Like, this thing can really just crack stuff open. And because of that, he ends up being a really, really point efficient terror weapon. Like, if you were to ask me, would I want the 5.52 Atlas that has 18 health, or do I want, for like 53, 54 points, or do I want this thing with only 14 health, but it does 7? I think I'm taking this, right? Because you're getting 2 more at medium, and that's like the bread and butter spot. And it's just like terrifying. Like, your opponent can't not deal with it, but then if he does deal with it, because it's so much body to chew through, like, no, like, your other stuff's going to be up in his face. So he's a great terror weapon. Now the con, of course, we're going to look at that speed. Speed 8 is slow. It's not terribly slow, but you might end up having to do an opening move of a sprint, then he's not shooting, and he might get outmaneuvered. So you do have to like really be on it for like your positioning and make sure that like where you put him is kind of the part of the board you want him covering for the rest of the game, because he could get outmaneuvered. He is a little armored forward, but I kind of highlighted this earlier. He's not really armored forward just because he's got so many boxes in his structure. If he had like only 4 boxes or 5 boxes of structure and the rest were all in armor, it'd be a lot more favorable to him. But you do need to be like prepared for taking a couple of crits and having to deal with them. And those crits, you know how it is. You get this thing that's got 7 shots at medium, but you take a couple weapon and a couple targeting computer hits, and suddenly, like, he ain't so efficient. He ain't so good. It'd be nice if he had a little OV. He doesn't. I'm not huge on OV, but with something that dishes this much out, to have like a 2 OV that could just really like seal the deal at the end when he's going down might be a little nice little icing on the top. And then the other thing is he is a little limited on the era. You'd think you have to be like late Republican on. So you're not going to be able to pull this thing in like your Civil War or your Klan invasion, right? Philosophy of use. I kind of talked about and hit this already. He's going to be really great for guarding your backfield. He's going to be a really great base of fire. He's going to really like lean into the definition of a juggernaut, just like really helping you like break down units, especially something that is like a TMM2 or a TMM1. And then he also has the volume of fire for dealing with like the faster stuff. So you're really going to be able to get your base of fire up. You're going to be able to push that like 25, maybe even 26 shots at medium in your list for 250 points. And then he also has good body, so he's really up in that. So he's going to be just this solid mass that your opponent's going to have to deal with. That's going to be able to, like, say you're in domination, he's going to be able to sit on one of those objectives and guard the other, or sit in the middle and cover it all. Like, so he's really going to be your guardian in the backfield. And as the game progresses, you can slowly move him forward to where he's in that like middle 2/3 of your backfield, kind of guarding the front line as the game goes on. And you can really kind of walk him up slowly and just kind of grind your opponent with him. So he's super good at doing that. Model review real quick. Both CGL and Ironwind Metals have versions of this model. They're all pretty good. The one on the screen is the plastic from CGL. When we review next week, when we review my the 2C8, I've got the metal one, and you'll be able to take a look at that one. I really like that model, actually. I think for a metal model, it's like pretty modern looking. All right, so let's look at some variants here. We're just going to go through them because there's 13 different variants, and so I'm going to break these up. We're going to do, I think we're going to do 6 of them this week, and then we'll do the other 6 next week when we review the 2C8. All right, so the base model of the Warhammer 2C is 50 points. Movement profile is all the same. It is 663 with an OV of 2. It also has 14 health, and it's got case. I kind of like this model, or this unit, to be honest with you. It is a little more expensive, but you're getting that long range damage. And 3 is my bare minimum that I like out of a sniper. They classify this thing as a brawler, but I think you can. You can, with 3 shots at long range, that is helpful. It does have that OV. Ultimately, I would prefer to take the 11 just because the game closes so fast to medium range. I think that what you're getting out of those 3 shots isn't as good as what you get from having that 7th shot at medium, and you're not picking up any of their special abilities. Although you do get that OV2, so when he goes down, he can really put the hurt on someone. But he's not bad. The Warhammer 2C2, 52 points, same movement profile. He's 665, and so you're jumping up to a pretty halfway decent shot at long range. I've talked about this in a couple of other videos. Where I really think long range is of value is where you're getting 1 shot for every 10 points spent at long range. And this is really nice because you're getting a volume of 5. So you potentially could consider skilling this down. I mean, the way I would run the 2C2 is to have him in the backfield stationary. I probably wouldn't skill him down because you're probably going to be pushing like upwards of 60 points, right? But if you skilled him down to 3 and then he went stationary, that effectively gets you down to 2. you're really putting the hurt on. But if you just stay at 4 and you go to 3, you're still also with that volume doing really well. You do have IF2. I don't think that's anything crazy great. The hit points is the same, but and you do have Ks. You do have that IF2 though. 2 isn't great. I mean, if it was 3, it'd be even better. But if they do mitigate you from being able to shoot, I mean, at least you got 2 you can throw. But I don't think the 2C2 is a terrible, terrible idea. All right, so we're going to talk about the Warhammer 2C3. It's only 49 points, and it's basically the same as the base model here. We're talking about the 2C11, which we love. It's 770 with an OV of 1. It's energy weapons. So for 1 more point, you pick up energy weapons and an OV, so you're a little more crit resistant, and you have that extra OV for 1 point. The reason I took the 2C11 was because I needed to save 1 point, which is kind of nice. But what's also nice, you can run both of these bad boys in a list, and for less than 100 points, you can be throwing 14 points of damage and be bringing 28 body to the table. That's crazy town. That's so good. And so I think there's a real tactic here where you just own both of these in your collection. You paint up 2 of them and you put them in the rotation. You don't, let's say you're running a 350 list, and you're playing you're like, okay, what do I want to run in like headhunter and like stand up fight? It's like, oh, I'm going to drop both of these guys in there because I'm getting all the body and I'm getting all the shooting, which is what you need in those missions. Also like King of the Hill, where everything has to come into the center. You're getting 2 big bodied size 4 units that can just smash, like really, really good options. So like running the 3 and the 11 at the same time, I think is like a legit move, right? And I love the 3. It in some of my lists, it really comes down to, do I need to save a point or not between running the 11 and running the 3? I prefer the 3 just because it's got energy weapons, because that's a little better on the crit resistance in case, but it's super good. Let's look at the 4, the 2C4. It is 50 point save movement profile, same health profile. It is 764 with case. I don't really like this. I feel like you're kind of like splitting the bathwater on the 2C2 and then the 2C11. Like you're getting the 7 at short, fine, but you're losing 1 at medium and then losing 1 at long to get that 1 at short. And I just don't think it's worth it. Like either give me the 6 at short and the 5 at long, or give me 770 for my damage profile. It just seems like it's kind of in a weird place when you compare it to others. Now, if it was on its own, I might consider it, but 4 at long is in such a weird place, especially when you're spending 50 points on it. Like it just, I don't know. Like I'd rather have, if I want this thing to be like engaging at long range and doing well, I think I want that 2C2 instead of this 2C4. If that makes sense. All right, let's move on to the 2C5. It's 47 points. Again, it's the same movement profile. It does lose a point of armor, so you're going to go down to 13 total health, and it is 663. Now, that is a drop. You're probably wondering, well, why would I take this over the 2C11? It's 1 point less, but I'm losing a point of armor. I'm not getting those. Good 7-point shots at short and medium. I'm also, the long is only 3, so I'm really overspending. It does have an OV 1, but who cares? Well, the reason is that it's Flak 222. So if you're in a meta and you're dealing with a lot of VTOLs and things like that, and you need to find some Flak, this is 222 Flak is pretty dang awesome, because most Flak is like 111 or even a lot of 0-star stuff, that nonsense that shouldn't even exist. But 222 is pretty good, and you're still coming in at medium at 6 points at medium range, or 6 total shots at medium range. So you're still at sub 10 points for your medium range shooting. And so I think that this is a if you need Flak, I think this is a pretty decent option. The 2C6, this is the last one we're going to review today. The rest of them we're going to look at next week. It's 48 points, so it's 1 point more than the 5. Same movement profile. You are going to get your extra point of armor back and go back up to 14 points total. It is 555 with an OV1 case with Flak 222. If you were to ask me to choose between the 5 and the 6, knowing that both of them are out there, I think I take the 6 for the extra point. I like that it has the Flak 222. If I need something that's dedicated for, let's say, anti-aircraft role, because that's what you're going to use it. But if I'm going to having that anti-aircraft roll, I'm going to have it sitting in the backfield providing support. I think having that 5 at long range for 48 points is a pretty good deal. And so what you're going to end up doing is sitting stationary, maybe even scaling this thing down to 3, not sure. But you're going to be in the backfield sitting at stationary and hopefully getting a turn or two of long range shooting at 5 where you can really like hammer it home. And then the trade-off is when they close to medium, you're not going to get the 7 shots, but you really need to, if you're going to take this, you're going to use it as a dedicated sniper, right? And then also your secondary use is deterrent to VTOLs, which can be an issue in some of our metas and some of our tournaments, right? So I think I would take the 6 over the 5, but that's really going to come down to you as a choice. Like if you envision like running into the middle more, then maybe the 5 is right for you and you still have that flak. Ultimately, the video kind of shows my cards. I'm going to take the 11 or the 3 over any of these most days of the week because I love that 7 points of damage at medium range. I just think is so good. Next week, we're going to talk about the 2C8. That's the heat variant thing that's just like throws fire everywhere. And then we'll talk about the rest of the variants and go through those as well. If you have a favorite 2C model or if you love the Warhammer 2C and you have experience running it, leave a comment below. Otherwise, thumbs up, subscribe, yada, yada, and may the blessings of Blake be upon you.